Wow, I didn't realize until I sat down in the lights of the stage just how much cat hair is on my black pants.
Oh no, I had to throw these in the dryer and then I had to jump in them and like shove them up my body because when you dry something, it shrinks because they size things wrong. And it was very hairy.
I put my shirt in the dryer on the steam setting instead of ironing it.
Oh,
because I'm lazy. And I wanted to do something in the least efficient way possible.
I mean, you're unwrinkled.
I am unwrinkled, right?
Yeah, no, you're not. But I literally bought a pair of pants that claim to never wrinkle, and I just
That's
put
a
them.
lie. There's no such thing.
It's a lie because I looked at
concrete wrinkles.
These fucking pants are wrinkled.
Yeah,
And I was so pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah, the only way things don't wrinkle is if they're made out of that like kind of polyester double knit fabric.
Which is not breathable.
It's not at all.
You literally you're in a sweat lodge, a pants sweat lodge.
If you go into a secondhand store and try to pick up one of those things, it will still smell like the stink of Plato's Retreat, even if someone did not go into Plato's Retreat when they were wearing it. That's how stinky those things are.
Have you ever bought like a vintage shirt and been like, ooh, someone died in this?
No, but I have a thing to do tomorrow on my day off.
But I even bought a vintage shirt one time, and it literally had sweat stains, and I refused to give it up because I had a fairy on the front. So I put everything on it that are you really writing down the thing about the pants? Okay. I just put everything on it to the point where I bleached and ruined everything around the sweat stain, and yet the sweat stain endured.
That's because of the sweat economy.
I don't know what that means.
The sweat economy, it's what the Gap is built on.
Oh, that's sorry.
Political satire. Hi, Felicia.
Hey, Will. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
I just want to call attention to this because it's bothering me a lot. I said this side stage to you. I'm going to say it to everyone else here. The part of me who cares about like stagecraft and appearance is really bothered by this.
No,
like
I'm really,
a lot.
No, it's my fault. Okay, I was like, hey, so they clip it on the outside, right? And then I was like, hey, let's tuck it. But I look like I have a goiter coming out because it's like curling under here, and I'm trying to like sit really like erect.
Can you have a goiter that low in your body? I feel like if you have a goiter down there, you're in trouble.
You can have a goiter anywhere.
Really?
I think.
I'm pretty sure goiter only exists in your neck.
No, that's not. Somebody Wikipedia this and just interrupt
Oh yeah, because
us.
Wikipedia is going to be an authority on anything.
Is Wikipedia not true?
Some of it.
Guys, you just ruined my life.
Yeah.
Because it is fact to me, all of it.
Yeah, so well, some of it is not.
Is that the parts where assholes go in and edit it?
That's, yeah.
Okay.
You ever run into an asshole on the internet?
No.
It's actually, you know what, this is actually one of the questions I wanted to ask you.
Oh, okay.
We've both been online forever, right? I mean, and when I mean forever, I mean as expressed as a portion of our lives. Like we both were online at very young ages.
6.
Even though I'm
6.
significantly older than you.
Really?
I'm so much older than you.
You don't look it.
I know I don't look it. It's because I'm amazing. But I am really, I'm a lot older than you. And so we've both been on the internet since we were little, right? And I remember a time where like it was easy to avoid assholes on the internet.
Yes. Why? Why was that though?
I think because there was a barrier to entry to get on. I think it's like, you know, like it wasn't as easy as like picking up an LA Weekly.
You had to be a hardcore geek person.
You had to do some work to get on.
Yeah.
And then like I mean back in the really old days, you would have to with dial-up internet. You would you would have to.
Was that 8? What Bob was that?
That was very slow. That was probably 300.
Bing.
Yeah. It wasn't, you know, 56K was like kabong,
oh, kabong.
Yeah,
no.
And the early
way earlier.
Do that, right?
Yeah.
But you had to actually program dialing commands into like a Hayes-compatible modem so that it would handshake the right way with the server that you were.
I never was that nerdy. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I just wasn't old enough.
That's right. Like modems had advanced.
Exactly. No, I remember. What was before 1440? Or 14?
There was 300, 1200, and then for a very brief time there was like 4800.
4800, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember
But do you
4800.
remember the Hayes compatible hardware handshake modems?
No, but
where if I called you and you had a Hayes and I had a Hayes, it would double the effective speed. So I could call you at 2400 baud, but it would appear to be 4800 baud. How is this not the most interesting conversation you've ever heard in your life?
No, there was a time.
This is what you waited in line for and avoided both of us running over you on our way into the parking lot to experience tonight. You're welcome.
You backstage said I would have gotten how many points in GTA?
I would have got, if this was Grand Theft Auto, I would have gotten so many points coming in tonight.
No, but
Because it would have been all of you. Just
crazy.
Every single one. I would have been backing up. I would have gone halfway up the street and changed the radio station to something a little more like triumphant, and then right back in.
I wish you could just put a car in Skyrim and do that, because I really don't like the NPCs in
Grand Theft Skyrim?
Grand Theft Skyrim. I would love that. No, when I was a teenager, I got so into the online world of like dialing up to local MUDs, and this isn't in the book, but the other stuff is good too. But in San Antonio, when I lived there, my brother and I got into local MUDs that we dial up to, and we met people at arcades that we met, and they were hackers, long hair, like. And I wanted to be a hacker so badly that I bought that 2600, the magazine.
Magazine.
Yeah.
It's a great magazine.
And I could not figure it out. Most of it was like deciphering and making a box to put on a phone line. And my mom made me terrified of heights and water. Yeah. So I wasn't going to climb up a telephone pole.
You really didn't have to climb a telephone pole. You could put it on the telephone line in your house. Is this when you knew you were a fake geek girl?
Yeah, no, total fake.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess I'm pretty.
I used the instructions out of either a 2600 or maybe it was, did you ever read Frack in the old days?
No, I didn't read that.
Frack was rad.
Really? Whoa.
One other person here read Frack.
Yeah.
I read, and I taught myself how to make a red box, which was a Radio Shack auto dialer.
Oh, Radio Shack. Yeah. They just followed me on Twitter, and I laughed.
It's kind of weird that Radio Shack knows how to use Twitter.
I know, that's why I was thinking.
Right?
And I almost took a screenshot and made fun of them, and I was like, I'm going to hurt their little radio feelings.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
And there's a good chance that like the 24 people who still shop at Radio Shack would get very upset.
Very upset. They need like a coaxial cable for their, But I could never figure out what that did either.
So you could get an auto dialer like back in the payphone days.
Yes.
And you'd cut out the chip that was in it, and then you would put solder a new crystal in there. That's how I learned how to solder.
That's hot.
It's an important skill. Soldering
is the hot. Soldering electronics, like.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah,
that's pretty hot.
And then close it back together, and then you could trick the payphone into thinking that you would put quarters into it, and you could make phone calls for free.
What?
Yeah.
So you literally never pay for a payphone call?
From 1987 until the statute of limitations starts up again, I did not.
That's really. Could you go to a payphone, like one of two that are in LA now, and still make that hat work, or did they advance?
I'm not sure if it would still work because the way that it worked was that phones all operated on sound, there were encoded tones that would send to like the central like phone switch, and then those tones would tell the software what to do.
Okay.
And you would if you ever put a quarter in, you would hear it go, and that was like it was saying, okay, a quarter's been put in.
Anyone under 20 is like, I gotta get out of here right now.
Really try sorry. Like anyone under 30. I know. It's happening. It's happening. I'm 43. Thank you. I have managed not to die for a long time, and I'm really proud of that. And for the most part, I don't feel like I'm a middle-aged dude, except when I have to try to engage someone who's in their 20s in a conversation, and I'm like, I have no, I don't mean it as a bit. I have no idea what you're talking about. I do not understand a single one of your cultural references.
I think you do.
I really don't.
Really?
No.
Like, name one thing that someone really likes. Because now, when I talk to somebody who's like in their early 20s, they love Friends. And I loved Friends.
Okay, so
when it was
first
on.
of all, they're wrong for loving Friends. Friends is stupid.
Oh my God.
Really? Let's watch a bunch of white people sit around a coffee shop and complain about how difficult their life is?
It was difficult.
I can go to literally any coffee shop in Los Angeles and watch an updated version of that happen in front of me.
Ross was a paleontologist, asshole.
Well, good for him. It doesn't mean the show wasn't awful.
Please don't let us break up our friendship right now. We can agree to disagree.
Honestly, if your misguided devotion to Friends is the thing that breaks up our friendship after all the other things that should have broken up our friendship so many times over the years, I'm worried about the future. My assistant is 23, and she was talking about how she didn't get to go to Coachella this year. And I said, I actually heard that Coachella wasn't especially good this year. And she goes, oh no. And then she lists off all these bands who did some amazing thing. And I had not heard of a single one of the bands.
But here's the thing about that, is that I absolved myself years ago that I don't need to know about things. And music is one of those, okay? I can only keep up with so many things, and I keep up with video games, I keep up with, comics, kind of, movies, television, my cats. I mean, they're...
Are you still playing that game where you capture cats and then you touch their buttholes?
Anybody play that? What's the one who's the little fatty one? Which was Tubbs, that's his name. That little jerk.
That was so incredibly disturbing to me. What just happened was so super disturbing to me.
No. It's a really good game. I spent way too much money on it. Yes, I'm an idiot. But lately I've been playing Cook Serve Delicious to the point where I might have to uninstall it on my phone.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay, Cook Serve Delicious. Download it now.
Cooks Are Delicious?
No, Cook Serve Delicious.
Okay, because Cooks Are Delicious sounds great to me.
That could be the cannibal version of this. So
Yeah,
basically,
that sounds awesome.
You're running a Greasy Spoon diner, and all the orders come in. You have to prepare them correctly, and you get bonuses. You can upgrade your food, and then you could go to Iron Chef, and you could do catering events where you make people tacos and burgers, and it's really stressful.
That actually sounds like something
It's
I would
really
enjoy.
fun.
I uninstalled Bejeweled from my phone.
Oh,
Well, because
booed? Did someone boo him?
Well, I'm going to tell you why. Look at how scandalized you are right now. You're horrified. You look like I just said I was very excited to vote for Donald Trump today. I know.
Oh.
That's even less. That is less scandalized than I uninstalled Bejeweled. I will tell you why. Because I got a new phone.
Yeah.
Because I dropped my phone and it landed on its corner and the screen didn't shatter, it exploded. And of course I was
I love it when it happens to other people.
Well, but here's the thing is it fell down and I was like, that was amazing. I need to get my phone to take a picture of that.
Because you have an Android that weighs 10 million pounds.
It does not weigh 10 million
It's
pounds.
large.
Do you have your phone on you?
No, I don't. Okay, well, you don't want to talk. Okay.
Bring your phone out.
It's over
Bring your
there.
phone.
It's way far
This
over
is my
there.
phone. That's weird. It looks like a thing that fits in a pocket.
It's-
Where's yours?
it's
Not in your
my-
pocket? Because why again?
Because
Remind me.
I have a baby doll phone cover that literally is twice as big as that. But it's a
Yeah.
joke. It's a joke, you guys.
Really? Because I feel like when you've been carrying this giant thing around that's the size of a fucking lunchbox
Okay.
on your phone for as long as you have, it's not really a joke. It's
Okay.
a thing you're super into.
Here's the thing. Annie, who works at Geek and Sundry, went to Hong Kong.
Don't try to blame this
and
on
brought,
Annie.
No, she got it for me as a joke, okay? And it's a huge phone case of a little, it looks like an old man in a pink, you want to see it?
Yeah, get it.
All right.
And I'm going
Hand
to tell
me
you
my-
why I uninstalled Bejeweled. So I got a new phone and I installed,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, let's put Bejeweled. Stop watching her! I'm talking. She's not even on stage. And it's like Bejeweled is requesting access to your contacts. And I was like, go fuck yourself. You don't need my contacts.
Okay.
And then Bejeweled went, well, I'm not going to run unless you give me access to your
Really?
contacts.
Oh, that's
and I was
crazy.
like, well, you know what doesn't ask for access to my contacts? The other game that I like better than you, we're breaking up.
So here's my phone case.
Huh, that's weird. Look,
I mean, it's
yeah,
still
look
kind
at
of
all-
almost
no,
smaller.
I'm just going to hide my phone behind yours.
All right. Here's the thing about this phone case, and I want everybody to go to YouTube after this and look this up because it's traumatizing. So Annie got this for me, and then I put it on as a joke, and then I took it off, and then I got my phone stolen. So I thought, oh my God, the peach gods are telling me something. So I put it back on when I got a new phone, and then Annie linked me the origin story of this, which is basically peach bottom. So if you search peach bottom Japanese on YouTube, you'll see a traumatizing video of a fake documentary about how to catch a peach bottom. Basically enslaving a small human peach man. That's one of the most horrifying CGI things I've ever seen. Anyway, you won't know until you see it how horrifying this is. And that's why I keep this on my phone forever. I like to do this.
I am so happy that I got to be here when that happened. That is one of my favorite things you have ever done.
You're welcome.
I want to ask you questions.
Oh,
They're
okay,
in
yeah.
my book.
We're going to ask each other questions, then we're going to do some Q&A at the end, you guys. So have some serious stuff to ask us about.
Let's see. Where should I start? Okay. I want to ask you about your brother
Oh, okay.
because I like your brother.
He's not really in my book, so he'll probably be appreciative of that.
But here's the thing. You wrote in your book. You wrote a lot about growing up, and you wrote a lot about your unique experiences growing up.
Yes.
And you didn't write about Ryan in your book very much.
No.
But you guys are pretty close today.
Yes.
And I was really curious to know what your relationship was like when the two of you were growing up. Were you close when you were growing up?
That's a really interesting question. Thank you. I mean, I do talk about him in my World of Warcraft chapter when I got addicted, because the only reason I started playing was because he invited me to do it. And it was one of the most significant contacts we had because we played World of Warcraft together. But as kids, we were strangely not very close. And the reason why that's strange is that we were locked in a house with each other, and we never saw other children. It's, I make it very whimsical in my book, but it was a very lonely childhood. And he and I didn't connect a lot for some reason. We would connect when we were playing video games together. And I think that's why I love video games so much, is because those were the times when we felt like, were the only times that I felt like we were doing something together, kind of escaping into this other world. So, I mean, there's some definitely, and I don't know how your experience growing up as an actor affected you, but, and writing the memoir, I kind of look back and I learn a lot from my childhood about, I see a lot of patterns of behavior that are very influenced by those formative years, even though I consciously don't do it. I don't know, do you think like that? I mean...
Yeah, I'm very close to my sister, but we weren't close when we were growing up. I'm 6 years older than her.
That's a pretty big age difference,
and I'm the oldest of 3 kids. And when I was a kid and I was a kid actor, I was really unhappy about that most of the time.
So you didn't want to be an actor?
Mm-mm.
Because that's funny, because after I wrote the memoir, I was like, I don't know if I ever really wanted to be an actor. I mean, I enjoy it, but I don't know.
I remember, I've actually spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I've taken advantage of our terrific Screen Actors Guild mental health coverage to talk to therapists about this.
It's great. Therapy, try it.
I felt like I never had a choice.
Yeah.
My mom did a really good job of making me feel like I had a choice, but I really didn't have a choice. And because of that, I was really awkward and weird and uncomfortable about it. And I imagine that I was, like, we were both really weird kids growing up, but I bet we were weird in, like, different ways. But what made me weird was, like, I was constantly having to, like, please adults.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to do things that were totally normal for a kid to want to do, I got in trouble for that stuff because it was, it's like, well, why aren't you being a professional? Right, and
that's really hard for a kid.
And I couldn't say, "'Cause I'm 8, fuckers." Like, this is not complicated.
Because when you're a child, you don't know any different. Like my mom, I mean, I love her to death, and she did what she thought was the best, and some of those things were awesome. And I'm the person I am, and I can't ever resent anything like that. But like, she is kind of a hoarder, and I never remember a time growing up that I didn't open the freezer and have to dodge because of, like, a meat was flying at my head. Like, I didn't realize that you could have a half-empty freezer. Like, it never occurred to me that you could.
Like, normal for you was.
Normal for me was like.
Cannon.
Skirt steak. I mean, the good thing, I wasn't a professional actor, so I didn't do that. I think I had this naive thought, like, I didn't know what I was getting into when I went to Hollywood. Like, I just thought, hey, we're doing community theater, and I'm like the 4th can-can girl on the left in Oklahoma, like I was in Louisville, and like, it was not a realistic expectation, but like, at least I was an adult to encounter that kind of stuff.
I really identify with a lot of what you wrote about the pressure you put on yourself to succeed when you were young, because I did that because I felt like this is the only, like, I have to make these people around me happy, right? And that thing that I'm sure you can relate to as an actor is it's very difficult to separate your internalized sense of self-worth from your success or failure professionally.
Yes, absolutely.
And because that was such a part of my life as a child, and because I was so successful as such a young kid, that when I got older, I didn't know how to not be like a successful actor. And that really affected my relationship with my brother and my sister, because as I got older, I was unhappy all the time.
Yeah. Well, you're always trying to chase something. I mean, I was kind of the same way in that I knew that I would impress people if I was really good at something. And that has taken a long time for me to shake, knowing that I'm just as good as I'm a good person, even if I don't achieve anything. Like me just being, I'm awesome. But it's really hard. I mean, every single one of us is awesome without having to hear the things that make me impressive and show people. But it's very hard because we're a very achievement-oriented society, especially. And then when you're in a performing art, especially young, you have those extra pressures. I mean, I had the equivalent, I guess, growing up as a violinist. I was always like the little prodigy, and the person, oh, isn't she cute? She can play like amazingly, and her violin's this big, and that was great positive reinforcement, but it doesn't allow you to develop an inner sense of self that withstands the times when you aren't as good or impressive or as little to feel like you're really worth something.
Because what becomes important is not that, like, you exist. What becomes important is you practiced for however many hours, and you played well in this recital. And it was the same thing for me. It was like, well, I booked this job, or whatever. And then when I got older and booked, just didn't, it was hard. I still struggle with it. I still struggle really, really hard. Yeah. I fell into, I talk about this publicly, and I've written a lot about it. I have depression and anxiety, and I and I live with it, and it doesn't really control my life. But some days are great, some days are really awful, and I fell into this really bad depression recently. And Felicia and I are sort of co-hosts of this thing that we do every couple of months with our friend Bill Prady, who is the co-creator of The Big Bang Theory, where we get a bunch of nerds together every other month, and we just sort of like hang out. And it's just to like be with fun people and be with people we like, who we would otherwise only see at Comic-Con, where we don't really have time to do much more than say hello. So it's a really neat thing that we do. And at the last one, which was last month, right? Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, how are you? And I was like, I'm not. Listen, because you asked, I'm not that great.
But that's so hard to even say that.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm great. I want to die.
Everything's terrific. I feel awesome. I don't feel like I'm filled with spiders. That's for sure.
And I said, listen, so it is the dumbest thing in the world, but my friend wrote this book called Ready Player One, and I really love it. And I did the audio book.
That's a good book.
It's a great book. And I did the audio version of the book. And the audio version of the book has won awards, and like it's like I contributed in my own way to the success of Ready Player One, and it's being made into a movie, and I'm super excited about it being made into a movie. It's gonna be great. And I have known from the very beginning that I wasn't going to get an audition for this movie, and I knew that I wouldn't get a chance to be in this movie because the reality is, I am not in my career like where the entertainment industry needs me to be in that movie. And I found out that Simon Pegg got the role that I really wanted, that I was never gonna get, and I knew that, right?
Yeah.
But then when I read it, I was devastated.
Yeah, because part of you, you know,
That stupid part of me was just like, no, we're gonna get there.
I mean, I love Jessica Jones. That comic was like, oh my God, I love this, and it looks like me. Like if you read the original comic, that's why I was like,
Yeah,
well,
actually
at
she
least
does.
draw your, you know. But she did a pretty amazing job.
But if
and
they
like,
make Scarlet, you could be Scarlet. Scarlet's
Scarlet is
Scarlet's
such a
a
good
Bendis
one.
thing, and you could definitely be Scarlet.
Well, let's
You
not
could
talk
totally
about
be
that.
Scarlet.
But it's hard. But it's part of the industry is that you don't have control of those things, you know, and it's hard not to take them personally.
Especially when during my formative years, and I guess, I don't know if it's the same for you, but in the formative years, it's like, oh, I learned, like, how, like, self-worth is directly tied to did you win the thing. And it's almost like if any of you had sports parents who, like, they didn't really care if you won or lost, but they really actually kind of did. And they loved you no matter what, but they loved you in a way where like you could feel it if you won the game, you know, and like not if you lost the game. And no, it's great that you know, it's terrific that you played really well. I mean, it would have been terrific, it would have been super terrific if you won, you know. And it's just like
But you know the thing is that you speak about that, and that's really inspirational. And also one of the reasons why in the book I have a whole chapter on the depression and anxiety, especially that I went through like several years ago out of the company and a lot of other things. And that chapter was the hardest chapter for me to write, but it's the #1 chapter for people coming up to me and saying, thank goodness for your book, because this made me relate to you, this made me get help, this made me feel like I wasn't alone in all these anxiety, depression, imposter syndrome, all of it. So like, I think it's important, like especially the things that you do and share, and anybody sharing with each other and people, you know, any place, in any way, that you're going through a hard time mentally as well as physically.
Yeah.
Because that is so much harder to say to somebody else, that you're like, I'm not okay. If my kidney's like flaring, like I'll tell you all day about that, but like I'm feeling like I just want to stare at the wall and cry, like probably not so great at the cocktail hour. But it should be as easy, right?
My friend said it's not stupid. That's totally reasonable. Go tell that story to any actor in this room, and they'll be like, "Of course, that's rational."
Of
course. I was like, "Great. You could just line up. I'm going to tell you. Let's line up, and I'm going to make you feel bad." That chapter, I don't know if I've told you this. That chapter in your book made me cry when I read it, because I am your friend, and I was with you through a lot of that, because we were working on Eureka, and we were back and forth on location, and we were developing Tabletop, and we were finishing up the Guild, I joke about, you know, I give you a hard time in public all of the time, but it's true. But I love you so much, and you are such an enormous part of my life, and like you are, like I'm closer to you than I am to my siblings, and like, and I felt so awful that you were going through all of that, and I didn't know.
No, because
I was right there.
Yeah.
How did I not know?
I mean, I think that I didn't talk to people about it. I was just suffering so much inside, and I had so much of a burden on me to keep this company going, especially because that was where the skill set started breaking down, and just being able to manage things. As well as, you know, the Guild, it was literally just sheer grit that we ever got that done. It was never easy. You were on set. Like, people now do digital things, and they have like 10 times the budget we ever had, making it. We were shooting in my house until the very last, you know, I was like, please, I don't want people back in my house, but we can't afford it. So like, come in, you know. Oh, great, put rings everywhere, pee everywhere. It's great, you know. So, and I had
a good time peeing all over your house.
Right.
was terrific.
But also because everyone kind of established me as this wunderkind of the web, I never felt like I could show people vulnerability, especially I think as a woman, because then you're just, you start to rely on other people in a way that makes you feel weak or be perceived as weak. And I don't know how much of it was in my head or in actuality, but I felt like I needed to be a wall and just be perfect all the time. And I think that goes back to writing a memoir and exploring your childhood and really thinking, what are these patterns of behavior that I have that I don't even know, and how are they adding up to happy me or sad me? And that's the most valuable thing about, I think, writing a memoir in general. I don't know if you found that, but it's very almost like digging up a grave of bad choices. Oh, look, that's why you dated that. Oh, boy.
You know, a really big part of writing Just a Geek for me was like kind of revisiting a lot of the things that made me who I am, and actually making peace with the things I'm really proud of and the things I regret, and accepting that all of those experiences made me who I was when I wrote it, and sort of like who I am now.
Yeah.
And being and feeling comfortable and feeling really good about, like, you know, if I were like, you know, when I make those two sides of like good stuff and bad stuff, you know, like the stuff that I'm proud of goes on forever and ever and ever. And a huge part of going through and doing a memoir was learning to accept the painful things.
Yeah, and also forgive you for making the decisions that you consider bad, but at the time, you had no other choice.
Yeah.
Like the person you were at that second could not have made another choice.
Yeah.
Because you come from that choice to the present day where you can retcon it.
Yeah.
And retcon, okay, we know we have to live with it sometimes, but that was a comic reference. But at the same time, like, I needed to make that mistake or that decision to be the person I am now, to see that with clearer eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
And if I jumped back and just changed that decision, I would not have learned to be that person that's a lot better adjusted, a lot more capable of dealing with fear and anxiety than that person ever would have been had I made it an easier road.
Yeah, I would never, you know, I get asked all the time, would you go back and, you know, if you could go tell X-year-old you something, what would it be?
I think I had that question down here. No, I had, who kill, marry, fuck cartoon characters? We'll get to it. Okay, you want to do it?
Yeah, okay. So I would fuck the Baroness from G.I. Joe for sure.
Someone's
because
very
she
excited
is
about
fucking
that.
hot. She is hot in like a Betty Page kind of way. And I imagine she's really good at tying knots. So I would really be into fucking her. I would probably want to marry. I would marry that. That thing from the Herculoids that shoots that shoots the energy rays out of itself.
Oh, Igu?
Because
The rock ape?
No, not the rock ape. The flying dragon thing.
Oh,
that shoots
God, what is
energy
his
bolts out of
name?
its head and stuff.
What is the, guys, come on. Nobody knows it.
I would marry that guy because how much would that shake up the world?
It would.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be like, guess what, North Carolina? And who would I kill? Boy, that's a like the easy go-to is Scrappy-Doo, but I wouldn't kill Scrappy-Doo.
I would sure as hell kill Scrappy-Doo. How
Wait,
does he, no.
from all the cartoons, that's who you'd kill?
If you put his body in acid, that skull would never be physically held up by that body. Like, for real, that's physiologically impossible.
Okay, first of all, if you put anybody in acid, it wouldn't hold up its skull. Acid dissolves things.
Okay.
I mean, there's literally nothing there to hold up the skull.
If it was
It's
special
all
acid
gone.
that only got rid of everything but bone.
And speaking as someone who graduated from college, what kind of acid would that be, Ms. Day?
Magic acid?
Ah, yes, magic acid. Oh, I would kill fucking Dungeon Master from D&D. From the D&D cartoon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would
Or
fuck
maybe
the-
Uni from Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
That was not a good cartoon.
It was a terrible cartoon.
No, okay. I would kill Droopy Dog because there was this one thing. Listen, guys. Again, with the I don't like large craniums and small feet, okay? It's hard. Right, anyway.
I'm just saying that you just broke a T-Rex's heart.
It's okay. I would fuck She-Ra just because she was my hero and, might as well get crazy. And then I would marry, it's a really hard one. That's a really hard one, like George Jetson, because he was stable. No. Oh no, Space Ghost. Space Ghost. What does he look like under his hood?
That's a really good answer. No, Space Ghost is a great answer.
Right?
Yeah.
I was kind of in love with that. Did you remember the talk show they did in cartoon? Did anybody ever watch that?
Did you just say, did I remember? Wait, Space Ghost Coast to Coast? Did I
Yes.
remember that? I don't know. Have you ever heard? Let me ask you an equally difficult question. Have you ever heard of a cartoon called The Simpsons?
Okay, fine. It was good. That was a good show.
It was great.
It was such a good show.
Very funny.
I forgot how good that show was.
Very funny.
I need to go watch that again.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have time to watch new things. I'm watching old. Okay, anyway.
I was
what
a
were we
big
talking
fan
about?
of Brack on that cartoon. I liked
Oh,
that
yes,
cartoon.
so funny.
He was hilarious. No, that's not Brack.
That was- okay.
That's what's the guy's name with the Z?
Thank
Zorak.
you, Zorak.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
I loved
yeah.
him.
Yeah,
Because he was twisted.
he was.
It was. What were we talking? We were talking about profound things. Sorry.
Let me look in my book and see
Okay.
what I was going to ask you next.
Oh, I wanted to ask you. Oh, okay. You
go
can ask
ahead.
me a
No, you
question.
go ahead. I asked you. It's your turn.
Well, I wanted to ask you about this program that you went through that inspired me to do a big program of change this year.
Yeah.
Because you posted a blog entry in like December about, was it December or November? About changing your life.
Right.
And you basically had a list of amazing things that I was like, oh, I want to do that. And I
Yeah.
did it, and I feel so much better, you guys. And I wanted you to
Hey,
talk
that's
about
awesome.
it. Yes, you inspired me, and you made my thighs fitter.
That's a little uncomfortable, but
Well,
I'm,
not in a weird way.
but I'm that good for you.
I did squat. I mean, I just started doing squats.
Oh.
Not because of you, just like incidentally, because I went to, I do this thing called ClassPass, which is an app that you could pay a flat fee for a month, and you can go to classes all around the city just 3 times a month. Anyway, I go to the weird ones, like aerial yoga, and like standing on a surfboard, and this thing where you stand on a plate that vibrates like 1,000 times a minute, and you literally just want to kill yourself because you're like, did not like that one, but I tried it. Anyway, but I did it because you said you felt so much better, and you did not feel as anxious or depressed after you worked out.
Yeah, so I spent much of last year really, really struggling with depression and just like a bunch of shitty stuff happened with Tabletop that was super duper upsetting to me, and it was a really rough year. And around September, I was like, my life is too good for me to feel unhappy all of the time. I think it's time that I was really honest with myself, and I looked at what am I doing that I could change that would help me feel better. And I wrote down it's either 7 or 8 things, and then I just kind of committed to them, and I made kind of a game out of it because I have to gamify everything in my life. It's just sort of like it's how I do anything, I started checking in about every 30-ish days or so and giving myself like grades, which is really cool because it makes me be really honest about it, and it has given me if I were a teacher, I would try very hard to encourage and reward and validate like the really good efforts that students make, right? Because I went to super hardcore parochial schools where we got an A or we went to hell. There was no in between.
I talk about like some of the before I was homeschooled. I went to some very severely religious Southern.
Man, and you went to them in the South.
In the
which is even
South, they
worse.
burned money in front of me. It's in the book. Like
Yeah.
literally, I remember like $100 go to in flames. And we were the kind of family like I would have to go to Goodwill and get one toy once a year, and that was like we were very, very poor.
Yeah.
So like seeing like $100 go up in smoke, it was like that was the agenda of the day. I had to tell my mom because it was like what? So
Yeah, and that's also not a thing that should happen in school.
yeah, it shouldn't. No.
No, really, that's not
It was
right.
money
No.
is the devil's currency.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's currency.
Right. Yeah, money's the devil's currency. Give it to us, please. I always thought, you know, the very few teachers I had who were like, your effort here was great in this thing, and I know that you did your best. So on a grade chart, like you're probably getting like a B-, right? But I'm really proud of what you did, and here's what I think you can do better, right? That stuff was really helpful for me. It's very, very hard for me to say to myself, you did an awesome thing, Awesome Pants McAwesome. Nice work, Mr. Wheaton. I'm very proud of you. Like, it's very hard for me to do that. But giving myself these grades, I'm like, here's what I could do better. Here's what I did really, really well. And I'm like kind of surprised by that. And then I grade on that curve and all that stuff.
Yeah, that was good.
I've been doing it for 6 months, and it's working.
You guys should read the blog entry. It's very, very good. I don't grade myself, but I certainly changed lifestyle things. I mean, really, I don't think I worked out for years. Like I was bone and then fat. There was nothing in between. Like it just, you know, so.
Man, it's a good thing you didn't fall into any of that magic acid. That would have been bad news.
All right, ask me a question. Sorry, got shrill.
You really did. Where did the line "at one point you farted on me to make me taco flavored" come from?
Well, that's a line from the Guild, and I like weird stuff.
Yeah, I got that.
No, not like I don't like a guy to fart on me, okay? Although I think a Dutch oven is pretty funny when I do it. It probably was my boyfriend, and I did a Dutch oven, and I thought it was hilarious, and he was repulsed.
And you said, I'm making you taco flavored?
Yeah, because it was a taco fart.
The idea that a fart could flavor a thing is really upsetting to me.
But you know, smell is particles.
Oh, I do know. That's one of those things I wish I could unknow. I really, really, really wish I could unknow that because I've been traveling a lot, you guys.
Oh yeah.
And what I've learned is that travelers like to wreck bathrooms in airports. Yeah, and you get to find out what kind of horrible things people eat all over the world. And it's terrible. And I'm like, you little shit goblins are inside of me right now.
It's true. They're in your mouth.
I was defensively farting on an airplane last week.
You don't want to one-up it?
Because there was, and I know it was coming from the woman behind me. I'm confident, I'm positive it was from her, because she had that like, I like to fart on you look about her. You've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm just gonna surround myself in my own protective fart, like my little phalanx of farts.
But it was like, was it a silent one? You were just like neutralizing? Because that would be an amazing superpower.
Do you mean like, was I farting peaks to cancel out her fart troughs?
Yes.
Kind of, I guess. Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
Well, you read something and it traumatizes you forever. Like, did you ever read Anthony Bourdain's books? And like, he talks about how. Okay, so basically.
No, because if you learn about how food works, you'll never want to eat again.
Never want to eat. You'll never eat swordfish again because those little things, the dots, those are worms. In a swordfish, they're infested with worms. So if you see a swordfish and there's like brown spots, that's where a worm lived. So congratulations.
But it's not there now.
Well, I'm always dubious. What did they do? They slurped it out? Kind of.
The odds are that worm is dead.
Okay, I don't know. I'm really sorry if anybody's a swordfish lover. It also has a lot of mercury in it. Also, if you flush a toilet, like the spray of a toilet goes up like 4 feet for the particulate matter. Yeah. So basically you're being covered in poo every time you... I'm sorry, this is reality.
Do you not close the lid on the toilet before you flush it?
Not in public restrooms, there's no lids.
Oh, that's right.
That's why I get paranoid.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Do you do the pooping position in a public restroom?
No, let's not talk about that. Although it's good for the thighs.
It's
kind of a squat.
I should probably do that. I run. Running is my big super duper hobby.
Yeah.
And I love it.
You did that zombie run thing, right?
I did. Oh, it's so much
2
fun.
people.
Did anyone in this room do the spring virtual 5K? Anybody else? Nope. Okay. It was really fun. I have a medal and a T-shirt. It was really great. And I did it really freaking fast. I couldn't believe it. I had hurt myself and I had been sick, and then I had worked I did another episode of Dark Matter. And I was on location in Toronto where it was like just above freezing the whole time I was there. And I had not run for 2 weeks before I did the race. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get a good time. And I didn't push myself the way that I would have if I thought I was gonna get a good time. And I still finished in 33 minutes and 22 seconds.
Okay, well that's what I've learned, you guys.
Yeah, right, go me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was fucking great.
But that's...
And it was raining when I was finished. And I was like, it's pouring rain.
That's like a victory dance. You need to do some kind of...
Dude, when I finished, when the thing in my headphones was like, I passed the finish line, I was all, and I was just like, just on the street by my house. And I'm just wondering, like, if I'm in a house and I just see this guy soaking wet in the rain, just run down the street going, do I call the police? No, I'd probably go out and join the guy. And I'm like, let's go, buddy. I know what you're doing.
No, that'd be creepy too.
Really?
Yeah.
You just act like it didn't even happen?
I mean, I once saw a woman running full tilt down the street holding a lazy Susan. With a look of anxiety on her face that made me want to know the whole story.
Was she like carrying it under her arm?
No, it was like this.
Yeah.
Like she was trying to hold, like a cake was going to fall at any moment. Like she was ready. I don't know. See?
That's great.
I can't unforget it. But anyway.
Okay, ask me a question.
Oh, ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let's see. If you were a burrito, what would be in you? That's weird.
If I were a burrito,
Okay, good. We're gonna do this.
I would have proper burrito ingredients in me. Not like the monster John Scalzi who puts bullshit in a tortilla, which should maybe be a wrap, but he calls it a burrito.
Wait, what does he put in it?
It's the worst fucking things in the world.
Like what? This is our...
Like horrible bullshit.
Like what?
Like non-burrito ingredients. Like he
What,
did
like steel?
He did. He put it. He did. It was like bacon and peanut butter and tomatoes and something else. And he was like, "Hey, look what I'm eating," because he knows how much it bothers me. It would be proper burrito ingredients. I'm partial to refried beans in my burritos.
Okay.
Although black beans sometimes can work. I feel that the burrito really lives and dies based on the hot sauce. And I like to put the hottest of the hot sauce that I can in there, and then some pico de gallo, a little bit of avocado sometimes, and then I'm just kind of I kind of like carne asada in my burritos.
Oh, that's a pooper for me.
You don't like it?
No, it just makes it's like that and meatballs.
Yeah.
It's like a fart machine.
Really? Do you know I pooped 4 times today?
What? Okay, if we're going there,
What's the most times you've pooped in one day? Not being sick, just like I'm pooping a lot today.
So
like,
here's
what was the most?
in December after there's an additional chapter in my book, my paperback about and after this we should open up for questions, but
This is a great question for us to end on.
Great, yeah. No, that's great. TMI all the time. So after my book tour, I wrote an extra chapter about it because it was awesome, but it was so intense that I had such a down afterwards.
Yeah.
I was very, very depressed. I was very anxious about what I was going to do with my life afterwards, and I decided to take like the month of December just like to de-stress. And I went on this cleanse called a panchakarma. Does anybody know about that? Anybody? Indian?
That sounds terrible and stupid.
Well, so basically, it was a cleanse in the Palisades that I went every day, and for 2 weeks before, I had to only eat.
I hate everything about
No,
this.
it's very ancient Indian tradition. It was awesome, except I had to take castor
The
oil.
ancient Indian tradition in the Palisades?
I had to take castor oil.
Why would you do that?
Because I was cleansing. And then when I got there, you guys, it was supposed to be a 7-day cleanse. And I was like, oh, they're going to massage me and they give me facials. And they come in with an IV bag and a hose. And I was like...
Oh, did they give you the hycolonic?
It wasn't a high one.
Are you sure?
I don't know where it went.
So how many times did you poop in a day?
Well, between that and then the probably 25,000.
I don't think you really poop 25,000 times in a day.
It was a lot.
But not 25,000.
One of the enemas was a coffee enema, and then it was like a tsunami came out of my mouth.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, that's how they work. It's supposed to do. I don't know why you seem to be a little. Yeah, no, you shouldn't. Listen, I am your friend, and I am here for you to maybe just offer perspective on some bad ideas.
I thought I was cleansing myself.
Well, you were cleansing yourself.
Let's go to questions.
I want to know how many times. What's the most times?
It was probably 4. It was definitely more than 4.
That's not that much.
But it was artificially stimulated, as I said. So your organic 4-timer, you're like high-five it.
Okay. Now, are you ready to catch me on the rebound? Because the most I pooped in one day is 8 times.
What?
I was on location for Powers.
What?
Yep, and I was like, I don't know what this is about.
What was in the craft service? Castor oil?
I think there must have been, yeah. I had, I had some really great Atlanta barbecue the day before.
That usually doesn't. Okay.
Yeah,
anyway, let's do some Q&A.
Great.
We have a
I was
mic
excited
over here.
because I didn't work a lot that day, so I was in my dressing room getting paid to poop for real, just like the Elmo gif.
That's pretty good.
I was really happy about it. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Terrific time and a segue to
Questions for people who don't regret being here. Oh, that's none of you.
Please raise your hand. I'll bring you the microphone. We do not believe in 2-part questions, and only Will gets to ask follow-up questions.
No.
Well, I'm currently hosting a YouTube show about comic books, and everyone else that I work with is male. And it's not very good anymore. It started out really good, and now it's not. And they decided to bring in another writer, and instead of me, who hosts the show, writing my own scripts, they decided to bring in a male friend of theirs. And I'm wondering if there's how can I either, 1, get out of it with grace and as much dignity as I can salvage, or 2, just convince them that I would like to have some input in the show myself?
Are you saying that you're spending time and energy on a thing that you're creating for love where your contributions aren't respected and valued? Yeah, fuck those guys. I mean, I don't think that you need to worry about you need to worry about being dignified and that sort of thing. If you're putting your time into a thing, and I mean, I would say the same thing if it were a bunch of women on the thing. If you're making contributions to something and they're not valued and respected, one of the best things about the world as it exists at this moment is you can take all of that energy and all of that time and all of that effort and you can put it into your own thing that belongs to you, where your heart and soul lives. We worked real hard to help build that world so that other people can get rich in it.
Yeah.
I would say, look, do you love it so much that you want to say, look, I really love this, but this isn't working out for me, and then see what their thing is? Or are you ready to set the place on fire and leave? Because I have matches in my car.
I have at the moment.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, I would love to just say, screw you guys, I'm going home. But I kind of need money to live.
Oh, there's that money situation.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would approach it you obviously feel like your gender is having something to do with it. Yeah, which is a difficult thing to convince other people that they're being prejudiced, because a lot of the times I see people's prejudices are unconscious, and they actually, they need to do some memoiring and look at their childhood, because probably the way that they were raised has them thinking one way. I would say that to me, I would sit down and be like, hey, this has changed, and I need to understand why. And if you think there are areas in my writing that are lacking, I would happily collaborate with this person. But for me to be a host here, I need to actually have my voice heard. So I'll give this a trial period. And if by the end I don't feel like it's working for me, then we could just part ways. So it's always good to give people a chance. And I think especially women, we're raised to be likable, and I think likability is a real thing that women are told is contingent upon them being successful in life. And we're not told, hey, if I die, take care of the family. No, it's like, hey, make sure everyone likes you. That's really what we get told growing up. And I think it's really hard to, especially in professional situations, to set that aside, that need for everyone to be happy when we walk away and accommodating, and to stand up for ourselves. But if you're aware of that impulse in you, because obviously hearing you talk, you haven't sat down and told them, hey, I feel really upset about this situation, and I feel like it marginalizes me, and I don't feel like I'm being valued, like, that's probably a barrier that you don't want them to not like you. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be willing to do it, but you learn a way to be like, hey, fucko, you're being a dick. You're a misogynist prick. You don't even know shit. Like, that's your inner dialogue. And then you couch it in a bunch of corporatese that I just said.
That's way better advice. Listen to Felicia. Next question.
Next. All right, Will, you're the bad guy in this scenario. Felicia, you're protecting the earth. You get to pick 5 people from any genre to take over the world, and Felicia, you pick 5 people to defend the world.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so I get to build the super villain league?
And oh, cool. Oh, wow.
Okay, so I think for this to be fair,
Yeah.
we should go one after
Yes,
the other.
yes.
Otherwise, I'm going to take all the cool people.
Okay, probably. Okay.
Okay, so we can pick, are they characters or people?
Anybody, any characters.
Okay, I'm taking Benedict Cumberbatch. Your move.
I'm going to take, God damn, real or private? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and take Jesus.
Being good was kind of his thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
motivational
Okay.
speaker.
Okay. I take Hank Scorpio.
Okay. I take, Wonder Woman. I really want Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Sorry, it's
Okay.
not.
No,
Okay.
that's good. I take Dr. Doom.
Damn it, I was gonna get Dr. Doom. Okay, I pick Ross from Friends.
Okay. I pick Superman.
Well, I'm not picking Batman.
Yeah, we all know how that turns out.
Wow. I'll pick Gloop and Gleep from the Herculoids because they can be like, I just like the Herculoids.
All right, and I take One Punch Man.
Dr. Horrible. I still think I lose, but I want to see that slash fic. Not with Jesus, that would be awkward.
You put Jesus and fucking Ross from Friends on your team.
Next question.
Hi, Felicia and Will. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you both so very much for talking openly about your struggles with depression and anxiety. I'm sure you hear from a lot of people, but it means so much, and thank you both for making it cool to be a geek. I wanted to ask you, regarding struggling with depression and anxiety when you're a person who's artistic, who has lofty goals in life that they want to accomplish, and yet at the same time you have to pay the bills and find your day job, how do you find a balance between those and still having self-care time and regulating your depression and anxiety. If you could both talk a little about coping mechanisms and, you know, work-life balance and how the fuck you do that, that would be really great.
I mean, I guess that has been my goal this year, to kind of figure that out a little bit better. And as weird, as dumb as that cleanse was, I actually did, in taking time off, I actually discovered a baseline. And I tried to concentrate as hard as possible in that healthy baseline, so that when I do spike into like something I'm really overly anxious about, or I do get down about myself or my career or anything personal, that I can intellectually see, oh, I'm off my baseline. And I can, and just the knowledge of that really helps, because then you can be like, oh, it's the hormones. Because it's a lot of it is in our head. It's a lot of chemicals and like, and things that you can't control that your body's doing that your brain doesn't have to buy into. And that's, for me, helped quite a bit. And as far as like work-life balance, like it's always just a constant sort of tracking and having long-term goals. And I think, Will, you know, that list that you had, being able to check in with yourself and really have a goal and break it down into the incremental steps that you're trying to get there and make sure you're on track, I think that is one of the most important things.
Yeah, there's two things that immediately come to mind that I've done in my life. I had I don't know what particular type of creative arts you're talking about. I can speak to this from the perspective of an actor. A lot of us who choose a career as actors, the only time we get to like act is like at an audition, which is the worst thing in the world.
It's not acting.
It's
begging.
not. No, it's not acting. I mean, it's in an environment that's not supportive and all that. And I had a teacher an acting teacher who told me, you gotta find a place where you can perform regularly. Once a week is ideal, but if like just financially you can't do that, like try to do it at least twice a month, where you're performing for the love and joy of performing. Whether that is with an improv group or a sketch comedy group or a play or a scene study class or doing open mic nights for stand-up or doing things like that, where you get to be creative and express yourself creatively, where there's nothing at stake. That's super, super, super important, because it helps take care of the part of you that is an artist. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I have absolutely no peer-reviewable evidence to support what I'm about to say, but because I'm an American, that will not stop me. I have found a lot of correlation between those of us who identify as artists and those of us who have some form of mental illness, and I suspect that there's always some kind of anxiety that underlies a lot of that. And I feel like we turn to artistic expression because it helps us manage the anxiety. It's helping our brain work things out. Somebody once said that writers experience the world like a few beats behind everybody else, because we're constantly like seeing a thing and processing it and filing it away for that time we're going to use this experience in a narrative, and then reacting to what's going on around us. And I feel like that kind of like odd disconnect from the rest of the world is kind of just part of being an artist, whatever your chosen artistic expression is. The other thing is, I took a marketing class once. It was about how to market yourself as an actor. And it literally saved my life. And it was taught by a guy who had done all this research. He'd been a casting director forever and ever, and he had done all this research on the studio system when studios would groom actors and make them stars by putting them in the right roles, and we learned how to put ourselves in the right roles, and that's how I figured out that I play villains, because that's what I do very well. That's where that's because I've always as my good friend Felicia can attest to, I really love trolling people. And the villain is the hero of his story, right? But one of the things he taught us was to find a purpose in your life that is not connected to your art or your work. and then and it has to be something that you can never complete. It has to be a goal that you're constantly working on, right? So that you're always doing something on purpose. And he said that one of the things he worked out was, and he tried to say it in as few words as possible. And he said his purpose in life, and he works with all these actors, and he works with writers, and he works with creative people. His purpose is he said, I dispel fear. He helps people not be afraid of not being successful or not getting a job or whatever. And when you find a purpose for yourself that is beyond that, my purpose is I inspire you. That's what I try to do so much with my life. I try to inspire people to be the best that they can be and to be kind and just to clean up the fucking mess we've made of the world. And I'm constantly trying to do that no matter what I'm doing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's completely removed from my career and my art. So I'm always doing that. And it is always a thing that I can hang on to that's satisfying to me. And when you can find something like that, it really does help take the edge off of the ups and downs of the uncertainty that exists in the life of an artist. And like Felicia said, helps you find that kind of that baseline. And if you can get as close to that baseline as possible and stay there as much as possible, then the ups and downs are not as extreme. I hope that's helpful.
No, that was good. That was good.
So we have time for 2 more questions.
2 more questions.
Hi guys. Felicia, you share a lot about yourself in the book, a lot that people we definitely didn't know about you before, and you share it with everyone in this room. I was wondering how did you decide that it was time for you to write this memoir and share all this about yourself?
That is a good question.
That's a good question. Yeah, because it is a little early. I mean, hopefully I have more to say after this.
Well, yeah, but you've lived a lot of life. That's very
yes.
important to give yourself permission to own that.
Yeah, the reason why I did it was because, I love my company, Gig & Sundry, so much. But when I had been doing so many talks around my life and seeing how that story impacted people in either creating or being proud of who they are, no matter who they are. And I felt like that was significant. And, business is awesome. There are a lot of parts of it that don't feel to me authentic or are primarily for the reasons which I do everything, which is let's just enrich each other, right? And it's just, it's part and parcel, and it's awesome, and now I have other people to help do all that stuff, but in the beginning of the company, I wasn't able to do that. And so that authentic thread through the appearances that I did gave me meaning, in a sense. So then the idea, to change it, to format it in a way that it would last beyond any success that I had. Because, it's a fickle world, and I'm always seeing disaster. I'm a real optimistic pessimist. I'm positive everything's going to go horribly. So, to me, if I could, not just give my story out in drips and drabs to other people who are using it for in press or whatever, if I could just distill it into something that I would have forever, that I could give to my kid or whatever if I decide to never, not be a public figure again. All that had inspired other people would be preserved in a way. And it was an artistic outlet for me to just sort of figure out the threads of my life that I was kind of feeling out of control of. And a lot of the reason for the book came out of that chapter that I wrote in the book about being really anxious and depressed and stuff, because I was just overwhelmed. And I needed to write the book in order to figure out why. So, I would give anybody the advice that if you're feeling stuck in life, if you have going through a really tough time, if you don't know what to do next in your life, I would really urge you to think about your life in a way that you would present to other people in a sort of memoir format, because objectifying what I had been through helped me understand it more. And when you're in it and you're having all the emotion attached to it in a personal way, it's in your skull, you can't have that objectivity and learn from it. So I guess that's why I did it, and I'm glad that people are enjoying it.
How long did it take you to find the through line for your book?
The good thing was that, we do a lot of conventions and a lot of speaking, and having to distill little pieces of my life in a format that I could speak at Wharton Business School, or I could go and do a presentation to advertisers for YouTube or whatever. I would see the things that resonated with people. Or just over the years, people telling me how much the Guild meant to them because they made their own web series. when I thought through and I just put down the nuggets of what had meaning to me, that's when it started to format why what I was going to talk about. And every time before I wrote a chapter, I would be like, okay, what would I take away from this if I wasn't me as a person that would help me improve my life, or at least motivate me to try something new? And that's what hopefully I tried to convey, at least.
Did you go through like any kind of agonizing, kill your beautiful babies process in that? Were there things that you were just like, I really want to tell this, but I can't, or I should really put this in even though I don't want to? Like, what did you did you experience that at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely edited it down. There was a lot more minutia about how, business versus creativity was really causing me inner turmoil, and I took that out because it was just a little too wonky. Like, really, people don't need to know about like CPMs and stuff behind the scenes. I didn't really want to put the Gamergate chapter in for a little bit, and then until I started working on it, and I was like, I think this is valuable in that it's distilling a lot of the agony I didn't even realize I was experiencing for so many years online, and that incident highlights it in a way that is so extreme that hopefully it will allow other people to either take something away, either be knowledgeable about the potential for the dark side of the internet in a way, or be able to see the kind of hate for what it is in all the kind of critical ways that I told about comments and things like that, and weird actions that were taken against me. And hopefully that would help somebody else withstand trolling that I went through. So.
Before we take the last question, a thing that I really wanted to ask you was about creating online right now. There are a lot of people, we have a lot of mutual friends who are YouTube creators right now. And there's like, it's as easy as it was, when did the Guild start, like 7 years ago or something?
No, it's like 9 years ago, dude.
Okay, so we're gonna go with 7.
I like that too.
Okay, it was very different back then,
Yeah.
right? And I've been thinking about how like you and Hardwick and I were not like, we weren't even the tip of the spear. We were like the shockwave in front of the spear, right? Like that like just like we helped sort of like just carve through this like really awful minefield, right? That has allowed, that kind of like had a path for people to follow, right? If you were starting now, right? So not in it, and you're starting and you're going to go do something like the Guild now. Do you think it is easier, harder, or the same? And you don't have the experience. I'm just talking about.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Just
right?
far as like
so
launching something now.
Yeah. So like, there's someone who is you 9 years ago.
I mean, I never expected to have anything happen with the Guild except the joy of creating it and the meaning that it gave me to get my story on screen. So I wouldn't do anything different. Would the result be that I would be able to follow that up for as many years? I think so, because I do think that I wrote it because it was personal and it meant something to me, and I think other people, gamers saw. I mean, there's a lot of gaming content now, but there's not.
But there wasn't
scripted.
then.
No, not at all. People didn't even stream on there, but there are not a lot of scripted even series reflecting gamer culture now, even now. So, I mean, to me, I would hope that it would be successful, but at the end of the day, I didn't care. Like, I think a lot of people get into the web now to get into Hollywood. I only made the Guild to destroy Hollywood.
I'm glad
I think
that you
that's
said that, because it's right. You know what? Because it super drives me crazy when a new media company starts to get successful, and they hire people from old media who are like, they're the reason we went to new media in the first place.
I mean, but
And,
it's very different.
Like,
it's very different because now oh baby,
oh wow,
oh my baby died.
We've upset Peach Man.
But everything's becoming one, and I think I see that there might be the opportunity for people to tell bigger stories that might have been the Guild. We might have had a budget back then. We might have. So I think there are
But
actually
do you
good
think that
things.
having I don't know if the Guild works with a budget.
Yeah. Well, I
feel like if there's a big budget, I feel like.
Well, I always used to fight the DP because I wanted to look like season 1. Everybody started to get like fancy with a dolly. I'm like, get that out of here.
Yeah.
I don't want anything fancy here. But yeah, I don't know. you know, it's a give and take, and you just have to be doing the content that you would do, whether it's your career or your hobby. You're doing it because you need to get your voice out there, not because you're trying to get something at the end, somebody else's approval, because that's when you go down the road of becoming more depressed and anxious because you have no control over what other people think of you, or if they like you or not, or like what you make. So I guess that would be my answer.
Because you take what was empowering about the experience
Yeah.
and you give it away
Yeah.
in order to like try and get acceptance. And
Well, that's why I never
approval.
sold the show. Like, very fancy people wanted to buy that show. I still own that show.
Yeah.
And whether I would have been more successful in a Hollywood way if I had sold it is irrelevant because I can't retcon my own life. But I can say that I did the right
That's a
thing.
callback.
Yeah, it's a callback. I can say that I did the right thing because everything that we ever did with that show was because we felt like the fans would love it. I was really motivated by that. Okay, last question.
question.
And then I'll be a sign.
Okay, so both of you are memoir writers, and I just wanted to ask, you're both writing about your own lives, but also you end up writing about the lives of your friends, your family, and the world around you. And what is sort of your process as far as making those decisions as to how truthful you are and what you talk about?
I got so paranoid about the book, I would go through, I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna be mad at me, I have to take this out. Some people criticize me for not doing more stories about like the guys from Supernatural or, you know, Dr. Horror, you know, I was so paranoid that I was trying to exploit my more famous friends for my memoir that I cut all of that out. And I don't know if that's dumb from a commercial standpoint, but to me, I don't want to be taking other people's stories for my own gain in the memoir. I just wanted to have my
Yeah,
experience.
there's plenty of people who are doing that and feeling really good about it.
I know.
You don't
I
need to be one
can't.
of them.
But
I called Felicia because I had read a galley of the book and I was like, you know, you talk about your friend who called you and said, dude, somebody from Gamergate doxed you. That was me.
it's true. And then I was trying to protect you because I didn't want you to be the target of.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck those guys. Put my name in there. Come at me, Gamergate.
Yeah.
But make sure you get in bed before your mom knows you're missing.
On that note.
It's really important to be honest and truthful in memoir writing, because especially when you're writing about other people who are also well known, because it's important to portray them accurately, because they're not a character you made up, and because someone's going to go, hey, I read in Wheaton's book that you blah, blah, blah. Did you blah, blah, blah? And they're like, no, I bippity-bop-bops. And I'm like, well, that's true. He was really a bippity-bop-bop. And I said blah, blah, blah. And it's super-duper important to do that. And I kind of have the same thing, you know? Like, I don't, I have real close friends who are way more famous than I'm ever going to be in the entirety of my life. And I don't even like talking about them with people who don't also know them, much less like committing something they said or did to the entirety of time through a book or whatever like that. Because like I feel like that's not my decision to make.
You know what? It's funny too because Joss Whedon wrote the foreword to my book. It's pretty amazing, but I had to cut those 2 stories out that he wrote in the foreword because I felt like, oh, I don't want it to be exploiting. And then he sent me the foreword, and I read it. I was like, oh my God, he wrote the same stories. So you know, you never know, maybe.
Well, that's great because then Joss was like, oh, I know what I'm going to write about.
Yeah, I had to write a lot more than him.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
You did.
Well, thank you so much for being here, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming and listening.